courage. And history teaches us which in the end endures. So, ladies and gentlemen, please look at the people that will today come on the stage from Hong Kong and Vietnam, Zimbabwe, North Korea, Venezuela, Sudan, Afghanistan, Belarus, Syria, China, Cuba, Russia. Different continents, different cultures, but one shared conviction. Freedom is not granted by dictators. It is claimed by the brave, by the courageous, the dissidents you'll see today. The regimes across the street at the United Nations may hold the gavels, but they do not hold the moral authority, the moral inspiration, the moral clarity fills this room today. Tyranny depends on silence. This summit, the Geneva summit, is the opposite of silence. Today we say, unite against tyranny, rise for freedom. Thank you.
Hear chanting, "Fight for freedom! Stand with Hong Kong!" The sound echoes through the street, thousands of voices rising together. Then suddenly, a sharp bang, then another. The sky fills with smoke, tear gas. Your eyes burn, your throat closes, you taste chemicals in the air, your chest tightens, instinct takes over. Run. Everyone's running, but no one knows where to run. You hear coughing, screaming, someone shouts for water, someone falls. A young girl is crying, her hands shaking as she tries to pull on the mask. Rubber bullets crack through the air. The sound is sharp, unnatural, terrifying. This is not a theater performance. This was my home. This was Hong Kong in 2019. I was only 14 years old at my first protest in Hong Kong. I remember wearing my school uniform and going with my friends at an age intended for jokes, unfinished homeworks, and the luxurious ignorance of how the world truly works. That summer didn't politicize us, it conscripted us. We marched because our government proposed an extradition bill that would permit the transfer of Hong Kong citizens to mainland China for trial, into a judicial system answerable not to law, but to the whims of the Chinese Communist Party, a system where verdicts are known before a trial even begun, a place where dissidence is dangerous. What that meant. We had to stand up for our home, not as radicals, but as citizens, or at least as children attempting to defend the future in which we were supposed to become a citizen. More than 1 million people marched peacefully, then 2 million, one of the largest pro-democracy movement in modern history. And the response was police brutality. The authorities called us rioters, cockroaches, street rats. They arrested everyone they could. Students, teachers, journalists, anyone who stood for freedom, and threw them in prison. If you opposed the government, they would arrest you and destroy you. Then came 2020. While the world was distracted by a pandemic, China imposed the national security law on Hong Kong and criminalized 4 things: secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign forces. The Chinese Communist Party purposely left the interpretation of national security law vague, so anything could now become a crime. Protest became a crime. Speech became a crime. Thought became a crime. I had a choice to make: stay silent, stay and risk going to prison, or leave. I chose exile. My rationale? At least outside of Hong Kong, I would still have a voice. But exile isn't freedom. It's waking up every morning knowing that your friends are still in prison. It's checking your phone afraid that they will arrest someone you know. It's worrying that you will never go home again. I exiled myself to the United Kingdom, where hundreds and thousands of Hong Kongers also now live. And I've taken up advocacy work. I speak up for Hong Kongers in British Parliament. I call for the release of political prisoners. I call for sanctions and accountability. Doing this work makes the guilt bearable. Well, at least I'm doing something. But 2 years ago, on Christmas Eve, the Hong Kong authorities placed a 1 million Hong Kong dollar bounty on my head. That's roughly 130,000 US dollar. I was just 19 years old. They put my face on a wanted poster and stuck it all over train station, the airports, police stations, and declared me a fugitive. Since then, I've been followed, harassed, intimidated, threatened in the United Kingdom. Many friends have cut me off out of fear of retaliation. And it's not just me. This is my friend Anna Kwok. She is also in exile. She also has a bounty on her head, escaped it to America and continue her advocacy. And this is her father. Last week, he was convicted in Hong Kong, not because of anything he did, but because who his daughter is. He did not organize protests. He did not lobby foreign governments. He did not give speeches like this. He is just a father. The message is, if we can't silence you, we will hurt the people you love. And that is Jimmy Lai, an entrepreneur, founder of Apple Daily, Hong Kong's biggest pro-democracy media outlet. He built it because he believed Hong Kong deserves a free press. For that belief, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison at the age of 78, and that is effectively a death sentence. When people see headlines about Hong Kong, they sometimes imagine brave, untouchable activists. But the truth is much simpler. We are human. We feel fear, we feel guilt, we feel homesick, we cry. We are ordinary people put in extraordinary circumstances. Today, nearly 1,000 political prisoners remain behind bars in Hong Kong. The Chinese Communist Party wants you to forget them. They want you to issue a blunt statement, shake your hand, sign a trade deal, and move on. In just 5 years, China has destroyed Hong Kong. There is no more free press. There is no more freedom of assembly. There is no more right to protest. Everything can be a crime. Hong Kong is now one of the world's center for international money laundering and sanctions evasion, supporting the trade of illicit weapons to Russia, Iran, and North Korea. So tonight, I ask you, as diplomats, as politicians, as journalists, as students, don't look away from what China has done. Stand with the people of Hong Kong. Demand the release of Jimmy Lai. Demand the release of Anna Kwok's father. Demand the release of every student, journalist, and average Hong Konger who had the guts to stand against the authorities. Because if freedom only matters when it's convenient, it doesn't matter at all. Stand with Hong Kong. Stand with freedom and democracy. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the next speech, interpretation is available in English and French. Headphones can be found on the tables or next to the chairs.
everyone. I would like to share a story. Not the story of a politician, not the story of a leader, but the story of an ordinary person, a Vietnamese woman whose name is Dang Thị Huệ, nicknamed Huệ Như. I used to be a primary school teacher working in the school library, surrounded by books and children. My life was peaceful with family and job. I didn't start my life with the ambition to become a human rights activist, nor did I see confrontation with the Vietnamese communist state. I started my life in a family where both parents were members of the Communist Party. I was a teacher who was loyal to the regime, completely trusted the leadership of the Vietnamese Communist Party, and knew nothing about Vietnamese society. Full of injustice, wrongful suffering for the people, and rampant corruption. My life unexpectedly changed when I witnessed the injustices related to BOT, built operate transfer toll stations that were improperly located, with toll collection periods expiring, where businesses still relied on the state, causing burdens and losses to the people. Our activist group calls this dirty BOT. The main issue here was people pay taxes to the state to build roads, but once the roads were completed, the state hands them over to private businesses to set up these toll stations. The state is appropriating people's money, and people have to pay taxes and fees 3 times for a single road. The amount isn't huge, but it accumulates quickly each time they drive on the road. For example, a round trip for my small 5-seater car costs 70,000 Vietnamese dong, equivalent to 1/3 of my daily wage. Thus, 1/3 of my daily wage goes to the BOT, while I still have to pay taxes to the state and road maintenance fees that are directly deducted from the vehicle owner's account. The toll booths were all located on single-lane roads, leaving no other option but to pass through and pay. After gathering numerous documents, I realized that this injustice occurred not only in one locality, but in 127 BOT projects across Vietnam, all in violation of regulations. We began publicly exposing this problem on social media and received profound attention from the people nationwide. The people began to strongly protest, forcing the communist authorities to dismantle 4 corrupt BOTs to appease the situation. I recorded, live streamed, and asked questions publicly. I did not call for violence. I did not incite hatred. I only demand transparency and accountability. But in Vietnam, where the Communist Party holds absolute power, they don't allow citizens to question authority. My frequent critique and demands for transparency have become a crime. I'm being monitored. I'm being summoned for questioning. I'm being interrogated constantly. In June 2018, we started protesting against BOT projects. In September 2018, I was abducted by security forces in Thai Binh while I was walking and forced to. In May 2019, 5 plainclothes security officers from Hanoi abducted me in the middle of the street. They dragged me to the headquarters of a corrupt BOT project, gagged me, and beat me. After being released, my friends had to take me back to Thai Binh to be hospitalized. Doctors had to perform surgery immediately afterward because I had suffered a miscarriage. I was 8 weeks pregnant at the time. There was a deep pain and trauma that has lasted until today. I lost my child not because of fate, because of the systematic repression of the Communist Party of Vietnam. But it did not stop there. In June 2019, Hanoi police arrested me during a public peaceful protest at a toll booth in Hanoi. They towed away my car and confiscated my phone. In October 2019, Hanoi police prosecuted and detained me and sentenced me to 39 months in prison on charges of disturbing public order. During the trial, 4 lawyers defended me, but the court did not allow me or my lawyers to speak. Trial was open to the public, but hundreds of police officers were deployed to prevent my family, friends, and supporters from attending. Jammed the cell phone signals throughout the entire courtroom area. Court imposed a sentence that was unconstitutional, a sentence that not only deprived me of my personal freedom, but also sent a broader message. Citizens are forbidden from speaking out. In prison, I became a witness to things that the outside world could not see. Harsh detention conditions to punitive treatment. I tenaciously continued my struggle to improve the extremely harsh conditions of the communist prison system for prisoners. Prison guards embezzled provisions. Prisoners were treated as labor tools, exploited in a toxic environment, given reduced rations, served rotten, moldy food, and forced to buy canteen food at inflated prices. I myself was forbidden from seeing my family and was not allowed to receive items sent by my family to the prison. I had to rely on other prisoners for food, clothing, and daily necessities. I will always remember the stories from prison. Faces, forgotten cries. Upon my release, I continued to speak out and take risks. I recounted what I witnessed in prison on YouTube and Facebook, exposing the corrupt system. My live streams attracted millions of viewers across all social media platforms, or recorded up to 100 million views in a single month. I support the families of other prisoners of conscience. I travel to every prison in Vietnam to inspire other prisoners of conscience who are still being held captive. Security forces throughout Vietnam have been relentlessly pursuing me. My friends who spoke out with me have also been implicated. The most severely affected was detained. I'm not afraid. I continue to speak the truth. They listen to me as if I were their very breath. They see the injustices inflicted upon them by the communist authorities, and they begin to seek me out to speak out about their own grievances. I have also joined many Vietnamese workers. District Nghệ An province resulted in 12 workers summoned by security forces who have faced potential prosecution. We went to the site to investigate, provide legal advice to them. The consequences were I was released from prison in January 2023. In May 2023, I was kidnapped for the first time. In May 2024, I was kidnapped for a second time. This time, 6 security officers from Thai Binh abducted me in the middle of the road right after I got off a bus from Hanoi to Thai Binh. They confiscated 5,000 USD from my bag and detained me for 24 hours without any detention order. Forced them to sign statements claiming they were lured by me on social media so they would have a pretext to detain me again. After being released for 15 days, the end of May 2024, security forces in Thai Binh surrounded me in the dark of the night. This time, I climbed over the roof to escape. In June 2024, I was forced to cross the border by land into Thailand, where I was granted emergency refugee status by the UNHCR. In Thailand, I continued my activities. I exposed government collusion projects with businesses that destroyed the sea, such as the one in Gonsan, Nam Dinh, where thousands of hectares of mangrove forests were filled with sand to build a steel plant that discharged waste into the sea. Security forces in Vietnam took my 11-year-old son to the Commune's People's Committee office to question him about his mother's whereabouts, causing him extreme distress. Many human rights organizations protested on my behalf at the time. In June 2025, the Federal Republic of Germany accepted me under their humanitarian policy. When I reported to the Immigration Detention Center in Thailand for relocation, I was again approached by 10 Vietnamese security officers under the pretext of persuading me to return home, but in reality, they wanted to force me back to Vietnam to face trial. In Germany, I continue my human rights activism at the international level. I don't consider myself a hero. I'm proof of something very simple. I'm an ordinary person, arrest warrant. Even requested an Interpol arrest warrant from me. 12 police officers raided my parents' house in my hometown, read out a search warrant, confiscated our family's private cameras, and installed new cameras to monitor our family's activities in our hometown. Communist authorities sent a report to Meta to block all my Facebook accounts in Vietnam. YouTube also sent a notification to delete my channel. In addition to all this state repression, I'm facing transnational lawsuits from Vietnam's #1 billionaire, Pham Nhat Vuong, and the giant Vingroup Corporation. They are suing me in Germany as an attempt to silence me for reporting on the products that are harming the consumers. This is a billionaire with connections to high-ranking officials of the Vietnamese Communist Party. Gentlemen, human rights has a face, a name, a story. Today, one of those faces is me, Renil. I'm telling my own story, a victim of dictatorship, and my wish is not to be silenced. Because when someone is forced into exile simply for speaking out, it's not just a failure of a nation.
Of North Korea. Young adults are forced to devote 10 years of their youth serving the military, and after being discharged, they must work like slaves in coal mines, farms, and construction sites. This is the tragic fate of young North Koreans. However, this pain does not only lie within North Korea. The Kim Jong-un regime have sent young North Koreans into the war zones of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. They were thrown into battlegrounds without even knowing where they were being sent to. These youths only realized that this is not a military training, but an actual war, after seeing their comrades die from drone attacks and artillery shells. Although I have found freedom now, the weight of my freedom feels heavy on my shoulders. It is because in this very moment, there are 2 young North Korean men in a prisoner of war camp in Ukraine, trembling in fear, which I call in pseudonym. These 2 were forcefully taken into the Russian-Ukrainian war zone a year and have become prisoner of war by Ukrainian soldiers. As the end of war negotiations are being held now, their fate is at risk of being repatriated to North Korea through Russia in the name of prisoner exchange. Yet the moment they land foot in North Korea, what awaits them is imprisonment or execution. The authoritarian North Korean regime defines the act of becoming a prisoner of war instead of committing suicide itself as a betrayal against the regime. These youths are now crying out and pleading not to be sent back to North Korea. The 1949 Geneva Convention prohibits forced repatriation of a prisoner of war that goes against their own will. I call on the United Nations and the International Committee of the Red Cross. If these people are sent back to North Korea, can international law still claim to uphold justice? If we let these poor youths be sent to a place where torture and death await them, the international community becomes an accomplice in dictatorship. In this moment, where 2 young men's lives can be sacrificed for a geopolitical negotiation, no word can protect their lives. What we need the most now is action, for proactive implementation that protects human rights, for the freedom of 2 young men, and for the future of the many young North Koreans that suffer from oppression. I request the international community to respond proactively. I would also like to call on the Ukrainian government. Are you also not fighting for freedom against a tyrannical invasion? It was not these men's own free choice to pick up the guns. Their burst of cry, shouting, I want to go to South Korea. I wish to go to a land of freedom. This is their plea for freedom, first in their lifetime, breaking away from the shackles of oppression. On humanitarian grounds, please respect their own will and send them not to North Korea, but to a land of freedom. Faced with despair, these youths have even attempted suicide. Yet upon receiving a letter of encouragement from us North Korean defectors, they have sent back a response. I will read to you their message. They said, "We have received well the heartfelt letter. We were able to feel your worries and support through this letter, caring for us as we were your blood-related sons and siblings. We thank everyone who see our situation not as a tragedy, but as a start of a new life and support us. We have decided to think that we are not alone, to view those living in South Korea as our parents and siblings, and to reach your warm hands." To the mother who told us she would welcome us with tasty food and nice clothes. To those who have encouraged us, saying we are family and fellow citizens. Once we express our gratitude in person. A new hope and aspiration have begun to emerge, thanks to the support of fellow Koreans. Thank you once again, and take care until 25th October 2025. Please protect Kang Gang-baek and Kang Lee's dream and aspiration so they can live as ordinary youths in a free land and not the fatal North Korea. Stopping their forced repatriation to North Korea is itself the path to protecting human rights and democracy and a way of standing up against autocracy. The problem is not limited to young two men alone. It is an issue where the future of many young North Koreans' lives living under an oppressive regime is at stake. If their voices are neglected, many more young North Koreans will be sent to war and countless lives will be lost. Please show the 26 million North Korean citizens that we are different from North Korea and that the international community respects human dignity and rights. Thank you.
Evening to everyone. Long time. I missed you guys. Mukulikeyo from the fresh Monday. Kanjire abajendireje in this month of August.
An observer has been allowed to see Nyima. The Chinese authorities asserted that the Dalai Lama had no right to designate the reincarnation without state approval. They forced another group of monks to appoint a different child whose parents were loyal members of the Chinese Communist Party to become the Beijing-approved reincarnation of the Panchen Lama. The enforced disappearance of the true Panchen Lama was not only an attack on one child, but an assault on the religious freedom of all Tibetans. Nyima has never been charged or tried. Year after year, human rights organizations have called on China to provide proof of life, but these calls have been met with silence, deflection, and propaganda. Today, this empty chair is dedicated to a boy who was taken from his family and from his people, and whose fate remains unknown. It speaks to a childhood interrupted, a voice that was never allowed to be heard, the spiritual tradition denied from the freedom to choose its own leaders. As we look upon this chair, we are reminded of the repression carried out by the regime in China and of our own responsibility not to look away. To the Tibetan community, we say this: your struggle for freedom has not been forgotten. We stand with you, and we will continue to demand the release of the 11th Panchen Lama and accountability for those who orchestrated his disappearance. He must be freed now. Thank you.
Buenos días, muchísimas gracias a todos. Good morning to all. My name is Leopoldo Lopez. I'm from Venezuela, and I would like to start by sharing with you the capture of Nicolás Maduro, a criminal that was in charge of Venezuela on January the 3rd, changed everything. Changed everything, but certainly it did not put us where we are in Venezuela. For years, the democratic movement in Venezuela has been fighting for freedom, democracy, and human rights. We have done everything. We have taken the people to the streets not once, thousands of times, not with hundreds, but with millions of people. The reaction has been repression, persecution, incarceration, torture, and murder. We have gone to elections. We have won those elections. The elections have been stolen. We have gone to several negotiation rounds, 16 negotiation rounds, with all sorts of mediators, from the Vatican to ex-presidents to the Norwegians, and the results have been the same. There has been no respect to what was agreed. We have gone to the international community to ask for diplomatic pressure and sanctions. Sanctions have been imposed, resolutions have been drafted, statements have been made, and yet the regime remained there. Let me be clear, a regime that was despised and is despised by 90% of the Venezuelan people. So we did everything in order to have a peaceful transition to democracy, which is the hope of the Venezuelan people. However, to the surprise of the Venezuelan people, we hear voices that criticize what happened on January the 3rd. We have heard from Geneva to Brussels, from the media, from experts, that what happened on January the 3rd was a dangerous precedent, that it was a war crime, that it violated sovereignty or international law. But let us be clear. What about the crimes committed by Nicolás Maduro? Tens of thousands of people that have been killed, that have been forcefully disappeared, that have been violated, raped, as is stated by statements presented here in Geneva, the Human Rights Council. What about the crimes of Nicolás Maduro? When they speak about sovereignty, we must reflect on the most important and sacred sovereignty, the sovereignty of the Venezuelan people, or the sovereignty of any nation. In our case, in July of 2024, we held an election that had to overcome all sorts of obstacles. Our candidate who won the primaries in 2023, Maria Corina Machado, was not able to register. So we had to register a diplomat previously unknown by the Venezuelan people, Edmundo González Urrutia. And with the support of all of the democratic movement and the Venezuelan people, Edmundo González Urrutia won the election with 70% of the vote. And that is not a claim that we make without proof. It was able to be proven because every single voting tally of every single voting station was recorded, presented, loaded, and it was undisputed that the election was won. But the regime stole the election, and it presented false claims that it had won the election just by putting results in a napkin and telling the Venezuelan people that that was the result. When they speak about international law, we must ask ourselves, what is the international law supposed to do for the people who are suffering? Is the international law there to support the stability of the regime, of a dictator, of a tyrant? Or the international law should be there to support the rights, the human rights, and the will of the Venezuelan people, or of the people of any nation? So unfortunately, those voices, for them, we believe that they are wrong. The Venezuelan people support what happened on January the 3rd. More than 80% of the Venezuelan people support that change. And let me say something else. I was very interesting to see that more than 60% of the people of Latin America support the capture of Maduro. So that should be a message to the people in this city, in Brussels, and elsewhere. Talk about sovereignty, international law, and all of these criticisms. So we are optimistic. And I can tell you, I could be one of the millions of voices that are optimistic in Venezuela. And we are optimistic because everything changed on January the 3rd. But we are not where we need to be. Because for years we have been fighting for freedom. And freedom cannot exist if there is no democracy. And democracy cannot exist if there is no free and fair election. So what's next? What is next in Venezuela? What is next in Venezuela in the hopes of the people is that the transition that already started, and it's going on a fast pace on the economic realm, needs to happen also on the political realm. And that transition needs to land into an election. So what needs to happen? First, all of the political prisoners need to be released. All of them, not just some of them. All of them. We had more than 1,000 political prisoners. More than 600 political prisoners remain in prison today. All of them need to be released. We need to cease the repression. The repressive state still in place. Figures like Diosdado Cabello, who is the devil himself for the Venezuelan people, still runs the Ministry of Security. Until he is removed, there will be no credibility that there is a change with respect to the repressive state. Those who are in exile, forced exile, need to return. Mundo González Urrutia, who won the election in 2024, needs to return to Venezuela. Maria Corina Machado, Nobel Peace Prize, needs to return to Venezuela. All of the political exiles need to return to Venezuela in order for this transition to happen. There also needs to be an opening of the civic space. The civic space in Venezuela has been closed. Absolute and complete censorship. Absolute and complete control to human rights organizations and civic organizations. That civic space needs to be open, and there needs to be an opening for truth to be told, for truth to be, for elements, debate to happen within Venezuela. Some of that is happening. We need more. And we need a new electoral board in order to have a new and general election for the Venezuelan people. An electoral board that allows credibility, support, trust, international observation, clarity in the rules of engagement. All of that needs to happen. And we strongly believe, that the hunger of the Venezuelan people for democracy is there. The Venezuelan people are optimistic, but we want more. We want freedom. And in order to have freedom, we need democracy. And to have democracy, we need elections. And not just elections for the president. We need elections for a new assembly, for governors, for mayors. We need elections for local councils. We need elections in the universities, in the unions. We need an opening of the democratic space in Venezuela. So let me end by saying, and I am sure I represent the hearts and minds of the Venezuelan people who are in Venezuela and who are outside Venezuela. We are hopeful, but we want more. We want freedom. We want democracy. We want elections for the real sovereignty of the people to be heard and to mark the path of a new future. Thank you very much to all of you. And as I ask all of you, thank you. Thank you. And let me just say a final note. When Venezuela transitions to democracy, have no doubt that it will have an impact in the region. When Venezuela transitions finally to democracy, Cuba will be free. Nicaragua will be free. The impact will be heard in Africa, in Asia, in Eastern Europe, because we are all here united in a global movement for freedom and democracy. So strength, my sisters and brothers, continue to fight for freedom, for democracy, and let's keep the fight. Freedom to Venezuela, freedom to the world. Thank you very much.
Everyone. I regret that I was unable to tax so devastating that between 10,000 to 60,000 people may have been killed. Entire neighborhoods emptied, entire families erased. These are not statistics. These are people who loved, who dreamed, who loved. These are children who once played in the same streets that are now filled with fear and blood, visible even from space. These are elders who survived one genocide only to face another. And here is the hardest truth. Most of the world does not know their names. Most of the world has not heard their stories. Most of the world has moved on. The people of Sudan have not given up. They still help one another. Cannot stop bullets and cannot stop genocide. And we must speak honestly about the forces that make the named is the United Arab Emirates, accused of supplying weapons, funding, and political support. The militia commits mass killings, and another state supplies the tools that make the killings possible. People on the ground see that support forces in the first place. They empowered it for years and have themselves implicated in grave abuse against civilians. And so for Sudan, it is a war in which every armed actor has treated civilians' lives as expendable. Tonight, I want to ask you to imagine something simple. Imagine the place you love, your hometown, your childhood street, the place where your memories live. Now imagine waking up to learn that half the people you know are gone. That is what happened in Al-Fashir. And yet, the world has not acted with the urgency this moment demands. So tonight, I'm asking you, not as an expert, but as a human being, to refuse to look away. Sudanese lives matter. Sudanese families matter. Sudanese suffering deserves world's attention, compassion, and action. This is not a distant crisis. This is a test of who we are. We believe that every life has equal value. We believe that no community should face extermination in silence. We believe that humanity means standing with those who are being crushed. If we do, then we cannot stay quiet. There is the call to action. Speak about Sudan. Tell what is happening. Push your leaders to act. Demand protection for civilians. Demand humanitarian access. Demand accountability not only for the RSF commanders who carry out these crimes, also for the governments and networks that arm them, fund them, enable them. Your voice may feel small, but silence is what allows atrocities to grow. The people of Al Fashir once opened their doors to the world. Now they need the world to open its heart to them. Let us be the generation that refuses to look away. Let us be the people who chose courage over comfort. Let us be the reason Sudan knows it has never been forgotten. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would just like to announce a slight change in our schedule. The International Women's Rights will be presented instead after the lunch break at 10 minutes to 4 at 3:50 p.m. Now we're going to continue with the presentation of the 2026 Courage Award. Thank you for your understanding.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this invitation. It is a great honor to stand here today at the Geneva Summit for Human Rights and Democracy, a place where courage is not only discussed, but recognized and celebrated. I have the privilege of presenting the 2026 Courage Award, prize awarded each year by the 30 human rights organizations that co-sponsor this summit to recognize those who embody courage in the defense of freedom and human dignity. Because courage is not a natural state. It is not something that you wake up with. It is added afterwards, once fear has finished writing the script and placed the final full stop. Courage is a footnote to fear and to life. The main text speaks doubt. In it, all rational arguments not to act are stacked, one upon another. The footnote resists, reminding us of the possibility of doing the opposite. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is a movement over the edge. So even when fear dictates and admonishes, it is courage, that italicized addition at the bottom, at the margin, that allows us to turn the page and to write history. The brave Iranian people stand ready to lead. Leading the struggle against Islamism are the women, the controlled, the silenced, the erased, each bearing the weight of lonely, uncomfortable, life-threatening courage. In Iran, courage is not shown by the one who speaks loudest, by the one who no longer stays silent. The history of humanity is not written by oppressors alone. It is also written by those who refuse to remain silent, to bow, to march in lockstep. What we are witnessing may be a historic moment, But it's only in hindsight that we know with certainty when fear changes owners, when the roles reverse, when fear, almost unnoticed, leaves the masses and moves silently to the despot himself. Suddenly, fears the very masses he once oppressed. Then, in retrospect, one can often identify the spark that ignited the fire, the moment when the people finally find the strength to rise, fully aware that life itself is at stake. The moment when the despot realizes reality has caught up and there is no going back. When control evaporates, when the military and police join the people, when the facade finally crumbles, when walls are torn down, when people are reunited, when all that seemed impossible suddenly becomes real and self-evident. It is then we are reminded again that history can always take new, unforeseen paths, and that these paths are ultimately shaped by the courageous choices of frightened people. It is then we are reminded again that the logic of dictatorship, manifested in oppression, control, and misery, is always at war with human nature and her longing for freedom. Iranian women pose a threat to nearly half a century of Islamist oppression. System built on the denial of freedom, on subjunction, and on obedience, where the female body is reduced to a battlefield, the hair to a crime scene, clothing and free will to a moral test. The woman who shows her hair is deemed a threat to the very foundations of society. The woman who speaks freely is regarded as a security risk, and she who refuses to obey is punished as an enemy of the regime with death, who is forced into an existence in the shadows, has not had the luxury of being vague, of being neutral. When one who dares to go first. It is an honor for me personally to present Masih Alinejad to you, not only to recognize her work, but to take a stand. Stand for all Iranian women's rights to own their own lives, against Islamism's claim to absolute power, for the principle that no state, religion, or ideology ever stands above the individual human being. History will remember those who excuse the brutality and those who close their ears to the Iranian lion's abyssal roar. But history will also who stood up when it was dangerous, lowly, and therefore essential. Masih Alinejad, thank you for transforming fear into courage, for never compromising. Thank you for reminding the world what freedom costs and what Masih path of the heroes of Iran. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Before starting, you heard two slogans here from Iranians. One chanted, "Land live Shah." The other one chanted, "Women life freedom." These two chants is forbidden, and both of them get killed by my government. No, not government. The terrorist regime killed those people if they chant this simple slogan. That's what I am fighting for. That my people to be allowed to chant whatever they want, because this is 21st century. Iranians deserve to have freedom, dignity, democracy. Thank you for coming here. Thank you so much for this recognition. But let me be very, very honest. Before coming on a stage, my brother in arms, Leopoldo Lopez, gave me a hug and said, "Leave your written note away, talk from your heart." This is a lot. But I want to be honest with myself, with every single of you here. I didn't want to come here and receive this award because the entire nation is being traumatized. Because Iranians have faced massacre. More than 40,000 people only in 24 hours. And I am like millions of Iranians traumatized. And I thought, I don't deserve to receive an award. I feel the guilt on my shoulder. I said, we need action, not an award. We need to see that the rest of the world bring shame to the government and stop legitimizing them, not ceremony. But then I told myself, this award comes from UN Watch. Years and years, we have been alone in our fight because Western leaders abandon Iranian people. But UN Watch was there, inviting dissidents, activists, leaders, the true representatives of Iranians on this stage. And I said myself, if this award means that we are together and we're going to stand united to expel the officials of the Islamic Republic from this country, I accept this award because I believe that what you did, you changed the narrative of the West. That's why many Iranians call you Uncle Hillel. Thank you so much. Yes, that's the only reason that I came here. But I accept this award not for myself, and I'm not here to talk for myself. I want to introduce my real heroes, the people of Iran, especially those who have been killed and those who carry the bullets on their own bodies. Two of them are sitting among you. And now I want them to stand up. One of them was shot in her eye, deliberately blinded by the regime in Iran. Kosar Eftekhari. She lost her eyesight, but not hope. The other one, mother of amazing daughter Juan. She left her daughter at home and joined the uprising. She carries the bullet. She lost one of her arm, barely moving her arm. They're not victims. Look at their eyes. Look at their faces. They are the warriors. They are the freedom fighters. And now I address you, European leaders, European citizens. I'm asking you, every single of you, would you stand with them or with their killers? Would you stand in solidarity with these heroes? Thank you. Thank you. Or you stand with those who are shooting them. Now I want to ask them to come on a stage because I want everyone to stand for them. I want everyone to stand for the victims. I want everyone to stand with 40,000 people who have been killed. Thank you. Thank you so much. They are carrying the pictures of their brothers and sisters who have been killed in this recent uprising. Thank you, Kosar, Sima. If you want to say anything, I dedicated this award to you because you are the real heroes alongside millions of Iranians. If you have something to say. I think you understood everything she said. Because with her pain, struggle and bravery, I don't even want to translate. She says this belongs to millions of Iranians who want to end this regime. And here we're standing to say that no negotiation with our killers. So, Sarjan. So, Sar, if you want to say something. Islamic Republic is a machinery weapons of massacring unarmed and innocent Iranians.
مردم ایران با دستانی خالی با رژیمی تا بن دندان مسلح مبارزه
Running breaks your joints. Tai Chi builds them back. After 50, you need that. In 1 week, you'll see your energy. In 2 weeks, you'll feel your breath. In 3 weeks, you'll have energy and your wife won't believe your results. Here is the personalized plan of short Tai Chi workouts tailored for beginners over 50. It takes just 7 minutes per day. Beginner friendly and requires no equipment. You can work out anytime, anywhere.
What happens if my husband starts Tai Chi tomorrow?
How old is he?
He is 56.
Perfect. By the end of September, you might not even recognize him.
But what if he hasn't worked out in years?
That's even better. Tai Chi was built for men over 50.
Isn't the gym better?
After 50, the gym breaks you. Tai Chi heals your body and makes you lose weight faster than in your 20s.
Does he need any equipment?
No, his body is enough. Just do it for 7 minutes a day and see your body get younger.
So how does he start?
Click the link, get the app, and start tomorrow.
Tai Chi walking starts on Monday, February 16th. It's made for women over 55 who wants to see visible results.
Ladies over 180 pounds, if you want to become unrecognizable by spring, on Monday, February 16th, we're launching a beginner-friendly Tai Chi walking program for women. You'll safely firm your body, calm your mind, and start burning stubborn belly fat. By February 23rd, you'll feel firmer and more energized. By March 1st, you'll be surprised by your waistline. By March 8th, you'll feel proud of your body and connected to it. All you have to do is open the app, take the first step,